Are we ready for today? The Arizona Breakfast Club is about to begin. Yeah. Okay, I've got a couple of things to cover first for those of you that don't know it already. If you go to arizonabreakfastclub.org, and that's right here, back one I guess, oh there it's right over here, that will give you the main page. I put all the meetings up as soon as I know who the speaker is and so forth for the next meeting. So if you go to this website at least the week before, Monday before the meeting, to check on things. If something happens and we have to cancel a meeting, there'll be a notice up here. So always check that website. The other thing that people ask about, I usually put a link, and I had trouble with the embedded videos. I don't know why. I'd put up this month's meeting, the previous meeting, Charles Goyette's, but it brought up the one before that, even though I had the right link. So there's something wrong with their linking. So I took those out. If we slide down on this page, the only one that's left on here that does work is one when, let's see, right down, April meeting is one that's embedded. I had them all embedded, but they would give me the wrong month. So I'm going to try to fix that. Put it if nothing else, I'll put the YouTube link. So you click the link, it'll take you to YouTube. Now, if you want to watch anything that we've posted over the last 9 or 10 years, just go to YouTube. And if you go to youtube.com and go up in the search on YouTube and type in Arizona Breakfast Club, and search, it will bring up other things as well. Just go down until you find one of the meetings. Here's one here. Click on it. It'll take you to that particular meeting, but where are the rest of them? Well, come down here to my name, click on that. It'll take you to my channel, and if you look under videos, you'll see every video I've ever posted, including other ones besides the Breakfast Club. You can slide down and find it by month, all the way back to wherever and the earlier ones. When I first got my account with YouTube, they were free, it's a free account. They didn't let me post long videos. I think 15 minutes was the limit, so I had to cut the program up into segments. And you'll find when we get back to the old ones, here's one here. They'll say, here's part 4 of 4 of 4, 3 of 4, 2 of 4, 1 of 4. So I had to break the program up in order to be able to put it up. But here's the last one, and the one before, January and February. There's December's. That's where they'll be. If you want to go find one you missed, Charles Goyette spoke last month. You might want to go listen to that. And then Freedom's Phoenix, Donna posts up. I be a writer on Freedom's Phoenix, and I could go in and write up the notice about the Breakfast Club and post it, but it would never show up on the front page. And Donna could not figure out why. There's something wrong with the program, and it won't let me post to the front page, so she has to do it. So instead of even bothering with it, I just send her an email and tell her when I've got the website updated at Arizona Breakfast Club. She goes and gets the info and posts it for me, and she posted this one here, which was about today's meeting. So that's how the websites work, and if you're interested in following any of that and looking at some of the old meetings, you can go see them until YouTube decides to take them down. I'm surprised that we've gotten away with some of the things that we've gone through at these meetings, and the Vaccine Education Summit and all those videos are posted there, and they haven't taken my channel down. They gave me a hard time once. I went and there was a school play, and of course when a school puts on a play, they have to pay for the rights to do it, and I videotaped it and posted it, and then I got a nasty comment from them, but they never forced me to take it down, even though it's still up there. I guess the actors weren't good enough to worry about it. Yes?
What's the name of your channel again?
It's just, I think it's under my name, Terry Major. But just search for Breakfast Club, and then once you're on it, just click down below my name and it'll take you to my channel. Then you can subscribe to the channel, and every time something new is posted, you'll get an email. So there we go. Today's program is about remote viewing. Part of the reason for this is, if you read my info on the website, there are a few things in life that you get interested in finding out about. And when I heard Ed Dames on the radio in 1996, I decided that was something I wanted to find out about, but I never went to a seminar. It cost money, and I was busy, and time, and you add all that up, and time passes. Well, in 2011, I went to a training class in Las Vegas, and I've attended a number of classes since. I've never spent the time to develop the skill. Sorry, I'd like to. I should have. Kick myself now, but it's something you can learn to do. I do intend to go through the 4 DVDs of the basic, and it takes about 4 weeks to do that. And at the end of that time, I should have my skill level up a little bit. There's a reason for it, and I'll go through these slides first. I believe this will give us a good overview, and then there's some video clips I can show, and a couple other things we can do if we have time. Remote viewing. Why did the United States government spend $20 million to develop the RV protocol? What is remote viewing? Remote viewing is a structured, teachable discipline that enlists the unconscious mind to gain direct knowledge, and that's key, direct knowledge, about an inaccessible target, people, places, things, or events in the past, present, or future. A remote viewing session begins with a cue or a question that defines the data being sought. Now, one of the cues that's used that they found is very effective is my optimum health trajectory. If you do that cue, if you get good enough at doing this, it takes about 6 months to be at the professional level of training yourself, doing practice targets. You can find out what it is to help your health, whatever it is. If you have cancer, you don't even know you have cancer, that's fine. This will tell you what to do. It's very helpful. Nice to know how to solve a problem. Remote viewing can be used to solve problems. A remote viewing session begins with the cue. The cues may consist of anything from the world's next catastrophic event to locating your lost car keys. Remote viewing was developed by the CIA and the United States military by studying how the human mind obtains data on an unconscious level. Through years of top secret scientific study, a protocol was developed that forces the mind to follow this unconscious process of data collection. What you're doing is collecting data from the unconscious. You're not communicating with demons, and there are a lot of people that have misconceptions about what remote viewing is. You simply tie to your unconscious mind. The unconscious mind, we are all connected. All living human beings, and even events and things in history, all tied together. It's like there are a lot of terms for that, the mind of God, or whatever you want to call it, but you have access to that through the unconscious mind all the time. But you don't listen to your unconscious mind. Most of us, it tells us something and we ignore it. This is how to train it to give you information specific to what you're looking for. The newly discovered skill, remote viewing, quickly produced high levels of accuracy, far greater than the program originally expected. Therefore, was utilized for real-life military operations. Though commonly defined as a psychic or psi ability by many individuals, remote viewing is rather a scientifically developed skill that is able to consistently obtain accurate rates of 80% on data during an RV session. I'll show you how that works. This is the first skill that truly unlocks the unconscious mind to consistently obtain accurate, reliable information about anything one would like to know. The individual responsible for remote viewing is what it is today is none other than Major Ed Dames, the most elite instructor in the RV industry. Major Dames is the only training instructor that provides the most effective and groundbreaking remote viewing program in the world. The history behind remote viewing. Remote viewing techniques were pioneered by a group of scientists working with several highly gifted psychics as part of a U.S. government-sponsored research program. Throughout 20 years of research and development, they developed a training methodology that enabled virtually anyone to be taught this powerful mind skill for information collection. In the mid-70s at the Stanford Research Institute, a team of scientists and psychics developed a protocol that allowed test subjects to describe distant locations. Now they use this in the military to locate prisoners of war and to find Saddam Hussein, to do things like that. They could find locations. Ed has developed a system now that has never been put out on DVD, and he just told us at this last meeting the specifics on where he is with it now. One of his projects that he's taken on over the years is to find kidnapped children. And he said that statistically, when a child is taken, you have 4 hours before the body's dumped somewhere. That's it, 4 hours. Most of the geolocate methods that were used take longer than that. So if you're going to find the child, you're going to find the child dead. So he's developed a very fast way to do geofix, to find the geographic location. He's using it. I'll show you what he's going to be doing. He's going to start a TV show. He's done with teaching. This was the last conference I went to. He's going to be working on his TV show, and one of the things he's going to find for the TV show, I'll show you a picture of it. The protocol dubbed remote viewing proved more reliable than earlier attempts to simply pick random numbers or guess selected cards. In fact, it turned out to be accurate enough to support sensitive intelligence operations. Remote viewing was the most accurate intelligence gathering method ever used by the United States government, and they turned it off. Why? Some congressmen decided to visit the CIA building, and they found out that the remote viewers could look at their lives and find out what they're up to. And that stopped the program. Can you imagine? Politicians worried about finding out, that people might find out what they're up to? Well, it's still used, and the FBI has contacted Ed's office as a private individual to do remote viewing for specific targets when they have a question. Equally remarkable, researchers found that these new and powerful mind skills could be taught to virtually anyone. A training model was developed and then refined by a military remote viewing unit. In 1995, this program came to light and made headlines when the CIA announced the existence of a clandestine program known as Stargate. Under this program, military intelligence personnel had undergone training to become psychic spies. Remote viewing is now declassified to the public. Ed declassified it by teaching it. How does remote viewing work? The remote viewing protocol is what gradually trains the unconscious mind to provide information regarding the target in a specific sequence of data. And I'll show you what that sequence is. As you write down the data obtained, you become more connected with the target, thereby gradually providing increasingly detailed information. This information is then translated into sketches and drawings. In remote viewing theory, everything in the universe exists as a pattern of information within the collective unconscious, okay? Patterns of information, what's sometimes referred to as the Matrix. Now, the term the Matrix was used with this before the movie The Matrix ever came out. Remote viewing simply allows you to tap into this phenomenon and to transfer a particular pattern to your conscious awareness. Like much of modern quantum physics, this explanation challenges our common sense notions of cause and effect. But the bottom line is that trained remote viewers hit their targets with at least 80 to 90% accuracy. No. It should be noted that within the remote viewing community, viewing is considered a metaphor instead of a literal description. What actually happens would be more accurately called perceiving. You're perceiving information, you're not viewing anything. Indeed, remote viewers must learn to bypass their natural thoughts and their rational thoughts in order to allow their unconscious to work. And though it makes use of the unconscious, remote viewing is the rigorous, repeatable, scientific collection of information. Is meditation involved? Meditation might be used to relax, but it has nothing to do with remote viewing. There are many misconceptions and misleading sources about remote viewing. Many sources that claim they teach remote viewing or a related skill, in fact, have no involvement with the original military-funded program or even have an understanding of what real remote viewing is. It is important to utilize a source that teaches actual remote viewing and is not simply utilizing the name to sell a false product or service. Are there different types of RV? Since remote viewing was derived strictly from several top-secret U.S. military and CIA research programs, a specific protocol was developed that one must follow in order to obtain accurate results during an RV session. I'll have some samples of that for you. No matter what acronyms are assigned to a remote viewing program, coordinate remote viewing, scientific, or technical, TRV would be technical remote viewing, there's only one true form of remote viewing. Can one learn RV through books and audio? And not really, you need visual to go with it. And they talk about visual method here, pictures worth 1,000 words. Training program. Who can learn? Anyone can learn remote viewing, but only students taught by accredited effective training course or instructor can claim seeing real results in 24 hours or less. I've seen at this last class I was at, the woman who sat behind me had never done anything with remote viewing before. I don't know how she found out about the class she came. Ed said she's a natural. Her entire session was perfect. She had a couple of small mistakes, never having done it before. I taught a short class to 2 groups. Legal Research Society once. We had about 7 people try it. 2 of them got the target, never having done it before. Ham radio group in Cottonwood, I had I think 5 people go through the method. 2 of them got the target. How do you do that? I have stuff here to do with targets today if you want to try one. Do I need to be gifted or have any previous experience? Actually, you need to get your mind out of the way. My wife's had a brain injury. Took her to a class. She didn't want to go. She didn't care about doing remote viewing. She went through the class. First target, she got it. Better drawing than anybody else in the room. Why? Because she didn't have to use any thinking. You don't think, you just do the process and the results come out. Why? Who knows? But it works. So it's a repeatable methodology that you can use to get answers to questions. The U.S. military and major ed names developed and refined the remote viewing protocol so that the average person, regardless of their background, is able to pick up and utilize remote viewing. Whether you are someone who is knowledgeable in the realm of remote viewing or a skeptic, curious about this incredible military tool, remote viewing is equally as easy to learn. Does age matter? Hope not. Not at all. Students have been successfully trained in remote viewing from 18 to hopefully beyond 70. What can I use remote viewing for? Well, anything you want an answer to. Remote viewing session begins with a cue, which is a question that defines the data you're seeking. These cues may consist of anything from the world's next catastrophic event to locating your lost car keys. Only your imagination and desire limits the data you can obtain with remote viewing. Examples. Remote viewing cues can consist of anything including obtaining the truth regarding religion questions, determining the outcome of political situations, detailed information regarding upcoming catastrophic events. Ed does a target once a month. The next terrorist attack in the world, okay, to see if he can locate where that's going to be. Finding missing objects and treasures, locating missing persons, finding accurate medical treatments and or cures. He's trained doctors who have a problem, they've got a patient, they don't know what the problem is, they can use remote viewing and find out what it is. They had one patient who the solution came in and they didn't really understand it. The solution medically didn't exist yet. So they had to find, well, who could best handle this now? And they found the location to take this patient where they could get the best treatment for the problem. They had one child who had a genetic issue and they remote viewing found it. They couldn't determine what it was. It had to do with sodium into the cells. They found the exact problem. Then they found the location. It was in Chicago where they could take the child, and it was an institute that doesn't charge anything to help children. So it worked out really well. Obtain information for assistance regarding your profession, problem solving and research for work or at home, information regarding an event in the past, present, or future, person's optimal health, optimal vocation, optimal mate, optimal location, stock market and futures trading, and more. One of the guys who was trained by Ed, and he runs all the seminars that Ed has put on, his name is Brent Miller. And Brent's now, he's got other companies. One of them is a production company, and they produce movies. And Kevin Sorbo is a good friend of his, and that movie that's just going to be coming out is one that they produced. So he used the stock market, remote viewing for the stock market, and there was a brokerage firm that had a contest to see who the best trader was. So to open an account was 10 grand. So he opened an account, and they had 10,000 people each opened an account to get into the contest. Add up that amount of money. And they then traded for, I think it was a year, might have been less than a year, to see who the best trader was. Brent Miller used remote viewing, and he showed me the method he used. He was number one out of 10,000 people. So it works. The list is endless. If there's anything you want to know, it can be answered with remote viewing. You can count on remote viewing data. Your personal beliefs or previously conceived notions have absolutely no implications on the remote viewing process. An RV session will provide data that's absolutely true. How long does it take to complete the course? Well, I've said you can go through, in 30 days you can go through the basic course. 30 days or less, and that's the end of the presentation on the slides. So, there you go. We can all go home now. I can. Let's see what we got here. Now there's a couple of videos. I'll play a couple of the videos first. This is what is remote viewing. It's a couple minutes.
Welcome to the world of remote viewing. Remote viewing, or RV, is a skill that trains the unconscious mind to obtain information about any person, place, thing, or event in the past, present, or future. A remote viewing session begins with a cue or question that defines the data one is seeking. These cues may consist of anything from the world's next catastrophic event to locating your lost car keys. Since a cue consists of a question as defined by an individual, only your imagination limits what information can be obtained during an RV session. Remote viewing was developed by the CIA and the United States military by studying how the human mind obtains data on an unconscious level. Through years of top-secret scientific study, a protocol was developed that forces the mind to follow this unconscious process of data collection. This newly discovered skill, which the military dubbed remote viewing, produced levels of accuracy far greater than the program originally expected. As a result, this new tool was quickly utilized for real-life military operations. It's this protocol that is responsible for gradually training the unconscious mind to provide information regarding a target in a specific sequence of data. As you write down the data obtained, you become more connected with the target, thereby gradually providing increasingly detailed information. This information is finally translated into sketches and drawings. Though commonly defined as a psychic or psi ability by many individuals, remote viewing is rather a scientifically developed skill that is able to consistently obtain accuracy rates of 80% during an RV session. With this level of accuracy, it's easy to see why trained remote viewers can easily determine the answer or solution to a cue each and every time.
Be warned. 99% of all information on the web about remote viewing is wrong. Since RV was declassified from the US military, a lot of people have jumped on the RV bandwagon, trying to redefine what it is and how it works, even watering it down to simple meditation exercises. Do you really think the military would order deadly strikes in the first Gulf War based on meditation? Get real. The truth is that remote viewing was initially developed by physicists like Hal Puthoff, working close with government research programs entirely in secret for over 20 years. This is a skill that uses the unconscious mind and requires real training. In fact, there are only a handful of people in the world qualified to teach this skill from the declassified CIA and Army program. In fact, at the peak of the program, Military Intelligence Officer Major Ed Dames was the only training and operations officer tasked with using the RV team for real-world situations. Today, many of the program's missions are still classified, But Ed Dames himself received 3 medals during this time, stating, "His insightful threat analysis has contributed significantly to this country's ability to maintain its military superiority." And Dames identified and confirmed the existence of an entirely new Soviet offensive weapon, all using nothing but remote viewing. The bottom line is that remote viewing works. In fact, you're about to get a rare look at live training with a beginner student with no previous training or recognized ESP abilities. What you are about to see is entirely real with absolutely no deception.
As I'm doing that, I'm getting closer contact with it allegorically. I'm not going to know what it is until I finish my session, summarize it, collate the data, and analyze it. But we'll always be able to get the target. Always.
Learning the RV protocols takes hours of instruction, so we can't present the entire process here. But the student has been here since early this morning and is starting to get a handle on the RV process. The student is asked to leave the room while Ed Dames selects a random target from a newspaper. See those numbers written on the article? 84116872? Those are called Target Reference Numbers, or TRNs. This was a blind training system developed in the military to keep the targets hidden from the viewer. Why? Because the human mind has a tendency to use imagination, which would ruin an RV session. The goal is to utilize the unconscious mind to retrieve all of the data remotely. This system works because the remote viewer receives only the TRN numbers and must rely on following the remote viewing protocol so that their unconscious mind actually collects the target data the numbers are pointing to. Think of it as a universal mind data filing system. For the session, the student receives only the TRN numbers. Absolutely nothing else is provided. He has no idea whether the target is even a person, place, thing, or event in the past, present, or future. The possibilities are literally endless, so the student must shed any idea of trying to guess what the target is and must strictly follow the non-thinking RV protocol. During the entire 30-minute process, there has been absolutely no assistance or information provided to the student. As the session unfolds with colors, descriptors, motion, a pattern is beginning to emerge of an object described as irony, metallic, bitter, acidic, chemical, and enclosed. The remote viewer writes that the sight is surreal and he feels concerned. The student is finally on the last stage of the RV process and is creating what is called a sight template. The student is drawing a large round structure filled with hot water. Targets there have emotion of oblivious to surroundings.
Can you tell me if anybody there is oblivious to their surroundings or whether or not they should be? Happy and oblivious to surroundings, I'd say. That's a nuclear reactor in the background.
In the finished sketch, we clearly see the student identified the target as a large round structure with hot liquid. The living targets nearby are labeled as oblivious to their surroundings.
I'm surprised. I think I really got it. But after seeing this, I know that it does work. It's like I got the sensory impression. My AI was surreal. That's how I felt about the site.
It is surreal. Nuclear power is madness, and the kids are happy and jumping around.
Pretty neat. I thought it was great. I was amazed at this session, so I could see the development occurring and the skill is developing. And I'm really excited about this. I intend to really pursue this as a full-time endeavor.
Seeing is amazing, but doing is believing. Experience remote viewing for yourself at learnrv.com.
Okay, that particular photograph is right there. Now you got the round building, which is the nuclear reactor, and there's the kids jumping into the water, having a great time, oblivious to their surroundings. All that with no information except those numbers. I developed 50 targets for practice, and I did it by collecting a bunch of photographs, and I did it myself, and ideally have somebody else do it for you. I mixed up the file names, so I had no idea what they were after I zipped them up, so each one was a zip file, and then I assigned TRNs to them, and I put those in a can, and I can draw one out and do a session and see if I get it. And about the fourth one I did, I got it exactly, and it scared me, so I quit doing it. But it does work, and if you want to try a target today, we can try one. You might get one of you to get it right, maybe nobody, maybe everybody will get it. But we can do that. There are some other video clips that we can play as well. Let's see. In Fox News, now, Ed found that if you try to use remote viewing for something that you want, and it's not necessarily what you should be doing, you won't be successful. Things will happen that don't work out. He was really bent on finding lost children. And he would spend a lot of time trying to do it, but he'd be off by 2,000 feet. He couldn't figure out why. Well, there was an example of a guy that he trained who got into sports betting and gambling using remote viewing. The guy was making a lot of money. But he shouldn't have been doing that. He got to the point where he was greedy. He called Ed and said, the last 100 bets, every one of them was wrong. How can that happen? He got shut off. He was not using it for the right purpose. So Ed was trying to spend all his time on missing children, and what he's supposed to do, he's determined, is teach us and teach people how to do this so we can find the missing children, because 1,000 people looking for missing children will work a lot better than one. Okay? But he was on Fox News with this clip.
Fox 2 News starts now.
6 months later, this search could finally answer the questions about the disappearance of Tangina Hussein. She vanished from a Detroit gas station, the last person to see the toddler, her mother's boyfriend.
But one man with a special skill claims he knows where Tangina is. Fox 2's Taryn Asher live now in Detroit. Taryn, do police believe him?
Well, enough, I'm told, Huel, to check this tip out. We are live on the east side of Detroit, as you can see, in a very remote location. Police plan to have a cadaver dog search for the missing little girl. Tangina Hussein seemed to disappear into thin air. Last October, her mother's boyfriend, Jamrul Hussein, claimed he went into this Marathon gas station in Detroit, and when he came out, the 2-year-old was gone. Oddly enough, no one at this busy gas station saw Tangina, and unfortunately, 7 months after her alleged abduction, no one has seen her since.
I think the child died very early in the game.
Major Ed Dames, director of the Matrix Intelligence Agency, surprised authorities when he told them he knows where the toddler is. Dames claims he knows the location of the little girl's body by using a technique he used in the Army to locate hostages and terrorists. It's called remote viewing.
This is systematic ESP, if you want to call it. It's very structured, very rigorous. It was a top-secret program for many years, but it's 100% accurate when you use it as a team. And that's why we know the location, that street, somewhere on that street. You know, if they find remains, it's going to be on that street.
Dames says he uses his skills as a public service to locate missing and murdered children. How does it work? From his home state of California, simply put, Dames says he sketched significant features of the area and then drew the target area itself. He compares it with maps and overhead photography to pinpoint the exact location.
That's where we determined that she was in a culvert-like pipe. And so we had all we needed, and it was time for us to recon the area.
The results from the remote viewing led his team of so-called trained psychics here. Pictures taken show them searching the remote and deserted area on the east side of Detroit. Specifically, Dames believes Tangina was dumped here, a brick hole in the ground that leads to an underground culvert.
That particularly lateral culvert, that pipe is only about 1.5 feet in diameter, and that's why I couldn't get down there myself. I went down the vertical pipe only.
Dames believes Tangina's remains are in the small space he was too large to search. Skeptics will easily write this paranormal process off, but Detroit police have not. This could be the closest detectives have been to finding the missing toddler. That's why they have ordered a cadaver dog from Michigan State Police to search the area in question.
I think that the dog has a good chance, a fair chance. We would have liked to at least found the clothing ourselves and taken the police there.
Reporting live on Detroit's east side, Tara Asher, Fox 2 News.
So, yes. Doing it against what? It's a declassified program. I'm sure if he were to look into some of the congressmen and senators, they wouldn't like it, but yes.
Were the parents ever asked for their permission to pursue the home, maybe the babies in the home? Or?
Why would they need to give their permission?
You're right.
Ed does not.
Find the kid.
I assume they did, or they wouldn't have had. He wouldn't have had that clip on their site. If you go to YouTube and put "Learn RV" in, you can get to their site where there's a lot of videos. That's where I got all these. Ed used to, at the very beginning, contact parents when he's trying to find the children, and he says if you don't find them right away, they start to get mad at you. So he no longer asks anybody or tells them that he's even looking. When Steve Fawcett's plane went down, he found the location, and they said, "Oh, it's not in that area." Well, it was, and he found it. So you can find remote viewing is very accurate when it comes to looking for a location for something, especially with the geofix method that's now used. In any event, there's a limited amount of time. So if you want to know the answer to a question, yes, you can get that. If you've got 50 questions, how much time do you have? Which one's the most important? You have to pick the most important ones to decide what you're going to look for. One of them, let's see, is you might find worthwhile is having to do with investments. Let's see, earthquakes, predictions. There's one on investments. Oh, this is a very important one. We might as well watch this one now. This just came out in the past few days.
How do I see the coronavirus affecting the world? About 16 years ago on a national radio show, I told the host that there's going to be a global pandemic, especially in the lesser developed countries. There will be martial law that we predicted long ago. In order to survive and have some decent quality of life during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, you need to be a prepper, pure and simple. Right now, cities in Italy of 50,000 people are almost as bad the situation as it is in Wuhan and other parts of China. The cities are cordoned off. That requires martial law. So if you live in the city, expect that. Make sure you have ample supplies of water, particularly water, and food. The shelves are going to be empty. They're emptying right now as we speak in this country. In the U.S., not to mention England and other countries. Go out right now. If you don't have food, buy it. Don't wait for the government. We're from the government. We're here to help. Don't wait for the government to tell you, prepare now, because your city may be closed off or quarantined. Don't wait, because if you wait, the shelves will be empty. There won't be any food on the shelves. There won't be any toilet paper or any other hygiene products. This is a real situation. This plague, this epidemic, this coronavirus is going to be knocking at your door if it's not already in your house. If you start now, because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last, nor peak. We don't know what the peak is, although there are estimates in epidemiology. You can figure these kinds of things out. Look at trajectories and that. But you may still have time to learn remote viewing to be able to find the sanctuary and find sanctuaries for your loved ones, because those sanctuaries may be different than yours for lots of different logistics and administrative reasons or medical reasons as well. So I would suggest that you crack that book now. There's DVDs that I put out to teach you how to do this. They're systematic and they're effective. So don't hesitate any longer. You don't have time. The first indication that you're really in a hot zone is when your school's closed down. That's probably the first indicator. When kids have to stay home from school and self-quarantine at home, that's an indicator that you're in a hot zone and you're going to have to sit it out. Again, make sure you have those supplies. If you're not a prepper, become one, at least until this blows over. Remember, this is asymptomatic. SARS, for instance, the MERS, incubation times were 48 hours before a test could determine that you have one of those particular viruses. This coronavirus is in the bronchial tract particularly. That's where it hides. And it's asymptomatic. The other thing in terms of preparation for this pandemic, if you wait for the government to tell you, prepare now, then all the people in the stores are going to infect each other. This particular coronavirus is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Hey, let's slow down the incubation process so it can't even test for us, right? They can't test for us until enough titers are built up in the bloodstream, which is going to take at least a week. That means you have all these typhoid Marys walking around all over the earth spreading this because it's asymptomatic, for days and times. And let's go one step beyond that. If you haven't noticed, folks, children are not being affected. Very, very few. As opposed to the SARS virus, where the children have very, very effective immune system. SARS took advantage of that and produced a kinin storm as a result of attacking healthy immune systems. This coronavirus is doing the opposite. It's remaining latent in children with very strong immune systems. It's sitting there for longer periods than a week. But children are the carriers, the primary carriers. What are you going to do about that? Brilliant. As a professional, remote viewing is a godsend. It's a lifesaver. Use that to look at an optimum health trajectory, which is a technical term for the Q, the matrix search term that we use. You can use that to look at, for your loved ones or yourself, to look at an optimum health trajectory, we call it, to look at the cause and both the treatment and possibly cure for any ailment. Any ailment. That's what we do, and I don't know how many hundreds of lives I've personally saved. And I've had the honor of teaching some of the world's foremost physicians remote viewing, who I tell them, as a practicum, bring your most intractable problems that you've never been able to solve, and we solve those problems. Remote viewing is an incredibly powerful tool. In terms of the kill shot, which I'm sure all of you have heard me talk about before numerous times, that is a massive set of solar flares from the sun taking down infrastructures. Infrastructure collapse, not all over the world, but in a lot of zones, particularly in the northern hemisphere. How do you prepare for when gas stations can't pump gas, toilets don't flush, and all the things I've talked about? They're all in that DVD, Prepping for the Kill Shot, as well as a very fine booklet that I'm sure you'll want to carry around in your back pocket because you're going to need it. So you have to be prepared at any time, folks, at any time. So prepping for the kill shot is critical for those of you who haven't figured out yet what you're going to do during infrastructure collapse.
There you go. I thought that might be appropriate. Let me get this to stop. So you got a little bit of the remote viewer's opinion about the pandemic. It was foreseen a long time ago. Whether this is it or not is the other question. We don't know that for sure, but it has all the indications. Whether it's bad or not isn't even the issue. It's the reaction. It's what's going on. closing schools and all these kinds of things. I mean, even if you don't get sick, even if it's not bad, what they're doing about it is what's bad. Okay? Yeah. Right.
What are the odds that Ed Gaines warning about this 16 years ago is what has led to this particular event?
I don't think so. I think that what you're doing is accessing information that's already there. If we did a remote,
that's kind of my point. It's already out there.
yeah, but that's the point. They saw it. If it hadn't been out there, they wouldn't have seen it. They wouldn't have been able to determine it. We had a case where we were trying to figure out who the next president was going to be before an election, and it was indeterminate. When it's indeterminate, it hasn't decided yet. In other words, the final wasn't there, couldn't find it. Now, the remote viewers used to look ahead to coming events, and there's a certain point beyond which they couldn't go. That was the kill shot, and they couldn't figure out why they couldn't get beyond it. Yes?
Without the remote viewing, I was on Ernie Hancock's show. That was June after Trump put his hat in the ring, and I told everyone the Illuminati is obviously selected. And it's simple common sense if you just go back. Actually, I found it on YouTube videos. There was a guy that had his VCR on for years, I guess, or he got this from other people who had theirs on. He went back 30 years. He's hit all the Illuminati TV shows, and they asked him, "Are you going to be president?" This has been going on for 30 years, so it was obvious when he went in there. And how I knew personally was he was a friend of mine on Facebook many years earlier. When I started posting 9/11 Truth on there, I went on my account 2 weeks later. I said, "Oh, let's check my Facebook page." They had a message right there. It's a one-page message. Your account has been what did they
deleted.
They got rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew. Oh, he's obviously, here was a little while later, years later. Bam, he's going to be the next president. No wonder they deleted. The CIA through the Patriot Act owns Facebook. Zuckerberg is Greenberg, and he's related to the Rothschilds. Researchers have put this on YouTube. We don't know if YouTube has erased those videos yet, but it's quite obvious what's going on in the world situation. Rothschilds own everything.
Well, they say that nothing happens that isn't planned. So, yes.
When the guy was betting and he got shut off, how did he get shut off and who shut him off?
When the guy was what?
Betting? He got greedy, you said?
Yeah.
Gambler.
Oh. Well, the quote, the Matrix wouldn't give him the numbers anymore.
Really?
Yeah. If you misuse it, your unconscious mind stops you from doing what you shouldn't be doing. Your unconscious mind is supposedly trying to make you do the right thing, follow the right path in life, whatever it is, and if you go off the path, it does everything it can to bring you back. Okay? I have a little clip. I have to use a different program to play it. Let's see if I can find it, where he talks about this. This was the meeting that we had. It's this one here. I have to play it with media player. This was done in Henderson, Nevada. That's Ed now. And you can see the difference in Ed from the earlier videos with the blonde hair as a surfer, and today he's a year younger than I am, and that's another reason he's going to retire. But he always enjoys these meetings. He'll come after the meeting's over for the day. We'll go have dinner and then come back and gather and talk until the last person drops. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 in the morning. And Ed's, when he does his own health trajectory, he's to stop drinking. And he says, I won't do that. He says, I've made a decision. I'm not going to quit drinking. He's an alcoholic and he's going to remain one. So anyway, but you see the wine. I finished off a big bottle of wine that night too. We stayed there till about 2. But we were in the classroom until 10, and we had to go. Then we went over to the hotel and sat in the breakfast area in the hotel and talked till 2 in the morning. And I just left the recorders run in front of him, and I have all the audios for the whole weekend. except for Saturday night. I didn't know they were going to meet over there. They were supposed to come to the restaurant, and they didn't come there. And by the time I got over there was so many people around them I couldn't get in. But he's going to get into dreams here. Next week. Right there.
Attention.
Dreams.
Dreams.
Okay, so the recurring dreams. These are real world cases too, where you've got a recurring dream of, let's say, a battle every night or every other night, and you have somebody remote view the seed of that dream. John Doe's battle dream, recurring battle dream / seed. What seeded that? In unconscious. And the example I'm so want to use over the years is the seed is like akin to a pristine snowball on the top of a hill that over the next 2 hours of delta sleep and possibly REM dreaming rolls down, especially if it's a recurring dream, you have REM sleep, rolls down the hill, picks up a bunch of detritus, ends up in this big dirty ball, at the bottom of the hill. In other words, the unconscious is trying to tell you something. Kill shots coming is a big one. Lots of people have recurring dreams. Even Joe Bush, that's why he took my class years ago. He had a recurring dream, one of my instructors, a recurring dream of being asleep and knowing that the other side of the earth just got fried. And it scared him, and then he heard me on Coast to Coast, and he rushed in to learn remote viewing. But the seed, the dream seed, your best friend unconscious is trying to tell you, that over the next hour or 2 hours or so, what happens is it gets all mucked up by the stuff we have to process. Our job, the argument we had with our mate, this stuff and it gets all wrapped up in it, and it turns into a battle. Okay? So remote viewer can remote view your dream like that. Look at the seed. Unconscious is pounding on you, trying to tell you about something. It turns into a battle, and it turns out to be pancreatic cancer. You have pancreatic cancer. And you've turned that into a battle, but unconscious keeps hitting with you, trying to tell you something, but it gets all scrambled up in that kind of a milieu. So it's only for recurring dreams, though. Strong recurring dreams.
I keep going back to do my final year of high school in my underwear.
I'm not going to remove you that.
Mine's not far from his.
Said he kept dreaming that he went back to his high school in his underwear over and over again. He said, I'm not going to remote view that. But the idea is that the unconscious mind is trying to tell you something, and the recurring dreams is one way. And so by doing a cue with seed, what seeded that dream, will take you to what the real cause is. And you can either do it yourself or have somebody do it. Okay, there's some other videos we can show. We can also do a quick session for those that want to try it. Does anybody want to try a session remote viewing?
Sure.
Sure, might as well. You can't lose anything, right? I'm going to pass these pages out to everyone, or someone can do it. Somebody want to pass these out? Just so that everybody gets a page. And then there'll be 2 more pieces of paper. You want to do it? Okay. One of those to everybody and one of those to everybody. Okay, don't do anything with the papers yet. And I'm going to get some pens because we should have black pens, and they're in the car, and it'll take a minute to pass these out, so I'll be right back in. Okay, that didn't take long. Well, I'll explain that in a minute. Ideally, these forms that we're using, anybody who, I got plenty of pens, so who needs a pen? Who's going to do this? You want a pen? Okay. Yeah, that's all right, sure, you can hand them out. Anybody, if you run out, let me know, I've got more. The rule in remote viewing is you use plain, ideally, and this is not ideal, you would be at a table, like this white table. There'd be nothing in front of you, nothing that would distract you, no flashing lights, no colors. You don't want a potted plant sitting on the floor next to you, that'll appear in your drawing. You want to have a clear area, plain white paper, and we use these forms instead at the beginning. It's like training wheels. And the word descriptor list that you got first, I'll show you how you use these lists. Ideally, you get to a point, you need more, or you got enough? Okay. Okay, thank you. Any of the extra pages left? Are they?
Yeah, put them over there.
Okay. There's these here, yeah, the forms. I wanted to take a form to use myself. Oh, they're over here. Okay. I'll show you what these are. This is the first 3 stages of a remote viewing session on these 2 pieces of paper. And this descriptor list is to help you as a crutch. Okay? The way remote viewing works, I could take a photograph, I could assign TRNs to it. How would I get them? Well, I can go to learnrv.com. They have a number generator there, and it'll generate 2 sets of 4-digit numbers, and it'll never use those numbers again. So and you can't use a 0 for the first digit. So that's target reference numbers. Okay? So they put that up there for people, and if you do the calculations, 9 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 9 times 10, it's 81 million. So that generator will probably work during our lifetime. So I picked 50 numbers from there, 50 sets of numbers for my 50 targets. I've got another batch of photographs I just downloaded, and there's 80 of those. I'm going to continue to do this and build up a bunch of targets. The purpose of the target, of this type of target, is for training purposes. You can also do a written cue. One of the cues that's very interesting that Ed did a number of years ago, and I've got a video clip on it, although we don't need to play it, it's the optimum investment. The current optimum investment was the way they did it, and they did this in a class about 8 years ago, and they came up with Gee, gold coins. That was the current optimum investment. And then silver coins. And all of a sudden it changed one day. And it thought, uh-oh, seeds. When it goes from silver and gold to seeds for an investment, things are getting bad, right? Do you know what it is now, or the last time they ran the queue? Long guns. So get your rifle ready. Now later on it might be something else. These are things to use for barter or for self-defense. Okay, we're moving to some really ugly times, folks. The world's not going to be like we see it today for very much longer. On a remote viewing session, what you'll do, and we'll go through it's about a 25-minute clip, and it'll take us through this target, and you'll see the photograph of the target at the end. You'll get the TRNs, you'll write them down, put your name and the date and the time when we're ready to start. You write down the reference numbers. You immediately go over to the little square box and you do a squiggle. It's called an ideogram. You lay your pen down, and whatever your hand wants to do, you do it. The idea is not to think. You just draw whatever little squiggle in 1.5 to 2 seconds, very quick. You don't even look at that again. That is supposed to connect your unconscious mind to the target. You say, oh, that's BS. Okay, just pretend, it doesn't matter, just do it. You do an ideogram. Now you go to textures. Take a look at the texture list. Airy, bristly, bumpy, coarse. You kind of read your way through them, and if one of them stands out, oh, filmy, okay, and you write it down. And gaseous or glassy, whatever comes to you at that moment, you cannot sit there for 4 seconds or longer thinking. You don't want to think. Whatever terms seem to fit, you just write them down. Textures, and the way I think about this is, I reach out to the target and I get textures. What's there? It's a soft, or it's hard, or it's smooth, or it's slick. The textures. What do I feel? Then I go to my eyes. Colors. The colors: black, blue, bright, bronze, brown, whatever they might be. Read to the list. Write down colors. Smells. You go from the eyes to the nose, then to the mouth for tastes. Then I can do my hand like this for temperatures. What's temperature like at the site? It's ambient, it's hot, it's cold. And finish that, we go to sounds. You go from this to your ear, the sounds you hear. Chirping, rattling, rhythmic, ringing, whatever it might be. Write down those words. Then you go to dimensions. Dimensions are very important. You've got to get a minimum of 4 dimensions. Above, across, angular, around, back and forth. That's a motion, right? So any motions or dimensions. It could be high, it could be low, it could be wide, wavy, vertical, vast. Okay? You'll write down the dimensions and the aesthetic impact. Aesthetic impact means, how do I feel? I finished this part, how do I feel about it? I'm interested, I'm scared, I'm afraid, I'm happy. Whatever feeling I have at that point, I just write the one word down. I'm done. Now I go to the next page. Stage 3, the sketch. The sketch is this is a very simple sketch. Buildings are generally portrayed as right angles. So you might just do a right angle. I think there's a building there. I write that down. There's somebody, a living person there maybe. I draw a circle. Just a circle says there's a life form, or more than one. And then maybe there's land, so it'd be kind of a straight line. Or maybe it's a river. I might have a wavy line for water. Up in the sky, I might have a wavy line for clouds, because there's water in the clouds. So those are the basic kinds of things that you might draw. Just what's at the site. What did you determine from your descriptions? And your dimensions help you with that. You look at your dimension list, it's dense, it's diagonal, so maybe there's something in a diagonal shape. So you draw a couple of lines. Don't try to draw too much, just a little bit. That's where you'll stop. And at the bottom of the page, you write the word END, write the word end, you're done. That's as far as we're going with this session. Now I'll tell you in remote viewing, the next thing you do, you're going to label everything that you just wrote down. If you drew a building, with a right angle, you might call that, if you think that's the target, you'd call it X, and you'd put it in a bracket. Square brackets with an X in it next to the building. And you'd say the little life form might be maybe not that important, but there's a life form there. You might call that A, and then B. So you'd have your different items that you have, X, A, B, C, however many there are. The next part of remote viewing, before we get to the end of the project, is each one of those aspects, X, A, B, C, whatever, you do a session on each one of those. So we'd start over with that first page again, only at the top up here it would say, from the top of X, something should be perceivable. Now you do another ideogram and you go through just X now, you're looking at X. And you do a session for X. Then you do a session for A and for B. This could take 45 minutes or more to do a complete session to get to the last thing where you take all of your little drawings and you have to put them together. You can rotate them around, but you've got to, Ed will explain that, and you put them on a final picture of what's there. That's the site template, and that's where the end of the session is. Now, remote viewing, you can go further than that. They have, I think, stage 7. I don't remember all of them beyond that. That's the advanced course. But all we're going to do is the first 2 pages. It doesn't take very long. So let's watch the beginning of the first training video, so you can get an idea of how this works. Be interesting to see if any of you actually get the target. Right here.
Welcome to the world of remote viewing. Remote viewing, or RV, is a skill that trains the unconscious mind to acquire knowledge about any person, place, thing, or event in the past, present, or future. RV was developed by the CIA and the United States military by studying how the best natural psychics acquire information. Your instructor throughout the Learn RV course, U.S. Army Intelligence Officer Major Ed Dames, was also the one and only Training and Operations Officer for the Defense Intelligence Agency's RV unit. With over 20 years of experience utilizing RV in top secret military and private operations, Major Dames has refined remote viewing into a reliable tool that virtually anyone can master. You are about to begin your training from the most elite and effective RV instructor in the world. Hello, and welcome to Learn RV Workshop 1, Introduction to Remote Viewing. Before we begin, you'll need several copies of the remote viewing session templates. You may obtain these templates by either of the following methods. First, you can go to www.learnrv.com/templates. The website will allow you to either download the necessary templates to your PC or print them directly from your Internet browser. Secondly, if you do not have access to the Internet, please refer to the template library booklet included in your Learn RV DVD case. The templates from your booklet can then be manually copied onto regular 8.5 by 11-inch sheets of unlined blank white paper. The type and number of template for each session is shown on the first page of the template library booklet. When setting up templates and executing your RV sessions, it's important that you use a black pen. Using any color other than black may be distracting during your sessions and inhibit accurate results. Please make sure that you are in a quiet working environment that does not contain bright colors, moving objects, or other distractions. Please note that moving objects also include things such as running ceiling fans and washers and dryers. Also, please have your word descriptor list and remote viewing session flowchart booklet available, which is also found on the inside of your Learn RV DVD case. Remote viewing is an amazing skill like none other you have been exposed to before. Let's begin.
Today is the boot camp of remote viewing, just the fundamentals. It's sort of like ice skating. Guess what happens when you get out on the ice the first time, for those of you who have done that? Nobody skates. We all fall on our derrieres, and then we skate. So we're going to give you the opportunity to do that, and we're going to use the mistakes that you make as a jump-off point for learning, to learn all about this. We take the incoming information in a very structured, ordered way, very structured, very rigorous, systematic, exacting way,
and we objectify the inbound information as it comes in, bit by bit by bit by bit. When I mean structure, I mean you're going to have a paint-by-number chart, so you'll know what to do next. Like playing the piano. Think of playing the piano. A pianist doesn't stop to contemplate the note that they just played. They move on to the next one. That's key. That's paramount. That's what you'll do too. You'll take inbound information, you'll record it in the form of a word or a sketch, and you'll move on using a flow chart. No thinking aloud, no creativity, no artistic license whatsoever. Robotic. That's what you'll be taught to do today. And it's as easy, believe it or not, as paint by numbers or connect the dots. You just got to know how to do it. Remote viewing is a 3-part process. The first part is setting up the problem. Setting the problem up. We formalize the way we do that. And that the emphasis on setting up the problem is really in level 3 of training, level 3 workshops. There we handle complex problem sets. Not as complex as level 4, but the emphasis nevertheless is on setting a problem up in level 3. The skill itself is the second part, learning how to do this. The third part of remote viewing is data analysis. That's where many of the pitfalls are in our work, as you'll see. But you don't want someone to act as a monitor facilitator while you conduct a remote viewing session. They'll skew the session. They'll get interested in something. They'll telegraph that using body language, can actually influence the student. The students are concerned about maybe, hey, I just nailed this particular target. I described this hidden thing, this remote target, to a T. How do I know that Ed didn't plant those ideas into my head? How do I know Ed didn't do that? Well, that's simple. What we do at the end of day 1 or the beginning of day 2 in a professional setting is we'll take a total unknown to me and the student, and we'll use that. Your best friend, let's see, your mother's best friend's location now, freeze frame. The next person that will call you on your cell phone, their location now when we start the session. So I would have to go to the same place the student would have to be to acquire that kind of information. That gets around the question of whether or not I'm implanting ideas into the student's mind. Okay? So that's not going on here today. You have to do all the work yourself. Actually, your unconscious will do most of the work itself, and it's the master problem solver, total master. In the most elegant way, it will come up with an algorithm to solve the problem. What you're learning are the protocols, sort of the syntax and the grammar for how unconscious can effectively communicate accurately information to conscious awareness. So it's difficult to explain to other people how you're getting this information, as you'll see soon. It's better to teach them. So I encourage those of you who leave here to go ahead and teach your loved ones, your friends, anybody who's interested, your children, in learning this, because that improves your own skills to the level that you've been taught. So after these workshops, 1, 2, 3, and 4, teach. Go out and teach somebody how to do it. It's fun. It's exciting. It's a real adventure, as you'll see. Sky's the limit in terms of targets. Is this hard? Nope, it isn't. It's really easy, folks. If somebody told me, if I had never seen someone ice skate before, and someone came up to me with a pair of shoes with a skinny metal blade on it and said, I want you to put these on, and go out there, and you can do all kinds of pirouettes and go really fast and stuff on these skinny little blades on this slippery surface, I'd say, yeah, right. Okay? That's where you're at now. Some of you may have suspected already that we're not going to tell you anything about the target because we're training your unconscious to do all the work. This is called a blind target. Not in the laboratory sense where you have double blinds and all these controls. The teacher, in this case today, knows what the target is. So it's a single blind, not a double blind. Once we designate a target, your unconscious knows exactly what to do. You're the problem. the awake, conscious mind is the problem because it's worried. Worried is thinking. It's concerned. Concerned is thinking. Fear of failure, that kind of stuff like that. That's all thinking. Unconscious doesn't have that problem. It's sitting there, right on the target. We're just going to give you the modality, the syntax and grammar for how to communicate that information accurately to conscious awareness without the fear of imagination or overlay doing that. So how do we get that information to you? We just take a set of numbers, a target reference number. That target reference number is also written on the feedback photograph, on the target reference material.
Target reference numbers, or TRNs, are provided as 2 sets of 4-digit numbers for each target given. Target reference numbers are associated with the target by means of a queue. The queue is a formalized and structured means by which the problem or question you are seeking a solution to is written. Queuing a target is covered in detail on Disc 2 of the LearnRV DVD set. For the purposes of this first training disc, all the TRNs and associated cues will point to photographs which you will remote view. Neither you nor the students on the DVD will be shown what the photographs are before executing each of the RV sessions. Those photographs will then be provided as feedback material, so your unconscious will learn from its mistakes to enhance your skill each time you practice. Again, it is critical to your training success that you do not look ahead at the target photographs before completing each session.
We have a really simple, easy format. You might think, well, why did you create this format? We didn't. We watched the way, military intelligence, watched the way that the best natural psychics in the West behaved cognitively and behaviorally when they were on target. And we modeled their behavior. We did not know that this was a teachable skill, that the model could be taught. We didn't know then, but it can, very easily. We modeled their behavior when they were on target. Why didn't we use natural psychics and intelligence? Because they weren't consistent. They did not know when they were on target or off. They did not know when they crossed the line, when imagination grabbed this hypothetical signal associated with the target and ran with it. You're going to know. We standardized the procedure. That makes it easy for you to read your partner's work and for us to read your work, for yours to read ours. Everybody does it the same way, just like in the Army. Name or initials go there, the date and the time in the upper right-hand corner. The target reference numbers that you see here, I'll give those to you. After you write them down on this space, you'll produce over here in this square what we call an ideogram. The ideogram will be produced in about 2 seconds at the most, and I mean 2 seconds. Because that's your body's response autonomically to unconscious signal. In fact, that little squiggle, that primitive squiggle that you're going to produce, and don't worry what it looks like, is actually a sort of a zip file. It's a burst transmission. It represents a gestalt of information. All of the zip files about information contained in your target area are present, not in diagrammatic form, but not even in archetypical form, but in this spontaneous little squiggle. Once those numbers are written and your hand moves over into that box and you produce an ideogram, that starts your session. So, I get these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bam. My hand goes over and I produce some line. I keep it in that box as much as possible. Okay, this is my ideogram right here. Don't think about it. Don't care what it means right now. Just do it. You grab, your unconscious needs something to connect your autonomic nervous system to the target. The transducer needs a connection to the pattern of information. That happens to be it. The process whereby you produce this mark happens to be the connection to the target. After you produce this ideogram in that box, proceed immediately down this list right here. Now you might say, well, Ed, doesn't this constrain
the process to just these terms. All that this list is to jumpstart this process. All you need to concern yourself with today is this is a touch screen operation. Keep the tip of your pen near each one of those categories. Textures first. And the idea is simply this. You can skim that list of textures if your texture repertoire isn't good and write down the words, the textures that come to mind. Don't worry where they're coming from. You don't know. Whatever texture words come to mind, write them down. Fuzzy, slick, icy, matte, whatever. Write them down. Write those texture words down, okay? If there is a pause of 3 to 4 seconds and you can't find another texture word, or the list after you've gone through all those texture words, if there's a 3 to 4 second pause, move down to the next category, colors. It takes creative imagination about 4 seconds to kick in, and you don't want that happening. You want to end run it. You want to run ahead of creative imagination. Pen next goes into colors. What colors are present associated with the target or the site? Okay. When that list runs out, proceed to the next category, and so on. Smells, tastes, temperatures, sounds. If there's nothing that comes to mind or nothing feels good intuitively on that list, a long dash mark will suffice. And when you first start out like this, you'll have a hard time with it. When you hit that dimension category, this is important. I've subsumed under dimensions densities and motion. Words that describe motion and words that describe density. Hollow, light, thick, rotating, turning, spinning, those kinds of things. Circular. Dimensions are critical to success in our work. Having dimensions, the idea of dimensions is actually a higher level, means higher level contact than the raw sensory data. At the end of the list is a funny little category, AI, aesthetic impact. How does the site make me feel? If I were really there, and I'm not, and I can't be, but if I were really there, how would I feel? And most importantly, you want to discharge any interest that's building in this site. Because guess what's going to happen by the time you hit AI? Hey, well, if it's blue and it's wet, it must be water, ocean, whatever, right? Those kinds of things. And it could be just that cup right there that's empty. It's blue and it's wet. It's not the ocean. But your mind wants closure. It wants closure. Just put that information down there. Then finally, we want you to move over to this page. Again, keeping the pen point near the paper. Never close your eyes when you're working. On this freehand sketch, it is critical to your success in remote viewing session. The way to produce this is to let your hand go over here and pretend like there's a brain in your hand, so to speak. It says 15 seconds because that's usually all that's required for your body to respond to the information it has by virtue of stage 1, the ideogram, and stage 2, all those sensory impressions. Then you go over here and say, well, there's something here, and there's something that goes like this, and there's something there, and there's something there, and that's all. That's what we want in stage 3. Critical, totally critical. Those are archetypes. They're standardized throughout the corpus of human beings. But all I want you to do at this juncture is to learn how to do stage 1, 2, and 3. You see that down at the bottom? It says label key site aspects. These symbols in archetypical form are called site aspects. Your hand can go immediately to the most important one. Place an X on that. And then place an A on the next most important one. Your hand will just go right to the exact one that's X. By convention, we call X the target. And all of those together we call the site. When this is done and your hand doesn't want to do anything else, just write end down here. End the session. Just one more thing. This little thing over here that says AOL with a question mark. AOL is our little code for analytical overlay. Analytical overlay is comprised of two things. In this process, inevitably, really up front and close, in stage 2, you'll probably start to get pictures in your mind's eye. Not everybody, but some of you will have a photographic image of something. The Eiffel Tower, a palm tree, a stove, whatever. That picture will pop up. You need to do something with that if it pops up. You can't pretend it's not there, and you can't edit it out, because it will overlay, ergo the term, overlay the flow of data. It's got to go somewhere. If you do get a clear picture of something, it's always trash. A clear picture is always trash. Draw the picture over here or write down the word Eiffel Tower. Just write it down. Stove, Eiffel Tower. I've got colors that are yellow, and I've got textures that are soft. My analytical mind says it's a banana. Write down over here, and off to the right of the page, banana. You can even label it AOL, banana, if you want. If it's just an idea that pops up, a high-level idea, it's also trash at this juncture. If you get the idea of a battle, the idea of a classroom, that's trash. That goes over here too, okay? That goes over there in the trash column.
You're almost ready to begin your first RV session. Before you begin, please take a few minutes and watch a student of Ed Dames execute a sample session. It's very important to note the pace of the session. I will guide you through the sections as the student conducts the session. As with the student you are about to watch, your first RV session should take approximately 3 to 5 minutes. Begin by writing your name, the date, and time. Write down the target reference numbers. Immediately create a spontaneous ideogram as quickly as you can. Refer to your word descriptor list. Start with textures. Write down as many textures that come into your mind from the list. Do not pause for more than 3 seconds. If nothing comes to mind, move on to the next category: colors, smells, tastes, temperatures, and sounds. At any time, if you have an image or an idea pop into your head, such as pine trees, as in the case with this student, it is your imagination driving you away from the target. Write the word down on the right of the template under AOLs and drop your pen for the thought to dissipate. Then pick up your pen and move on. Do not think about the target, but focus only on the next perception to write and move through the templates quickly. You should never stop writing for more than 3 to 4 seconds at a time. write down all dimensions, densities, and motions that come to mind, but no less than 4. How does the site make you feel? Look at the word descriptor list and write down only one word to describe your feelings. Turn to the second template to produce your Stage 3 freehand sketch. Without thinking what the target may be, allow your body to draw the key aspects of the site in symbolic form, where you feel they should be on the page. Do not take more than 15 seconds to do this. Finally, place an X next to the aspect that you instinctively feel is the most important in your freehand sketch. Place an A on the next most important, and a B on the third most important aspect. That's it. The session is complete. If you feel the need for any further review before beginning your first session, feel free to re-watch previous sections and also refer to the booklets included in your Learn RV DVD case. You are about to begin your very first RV session. Get your first 2 templates ready, which contain stages 1, 2, and 3, and pick up your black pen. Make sure there are no noises, including music, bright colors, or moving objects around you that may distract you from your session. During your first session, you will be remote viewing right along with the workshop students. You'll hear Ed Dames speaking during your session. He will help you keep pace with the rest of the class by informing you what section you should be on. Remember, do not close your eyes. Look only at your templates and word descriptor list, and keep moving without thinking. Your only focus should be in following the structure and what you are going to do next. This session must not take more than 3 to 5 minutes. As soon as you see Major Dames write down the target reference numbers, you should immediately look at your templates and word descriptor list and begin your RV session. Do not look away from your paper or word descriptor list while you are conducting your session. This includes looking up at your TV screen. Get ready. Major Dames will now give you the first RV target.
There we go. So, how do we do? Yeah. Target reference numbers are generated with that random number generator, and the one who sets up the target assigns the random numbers to whatever the target is, and that becomes your only reference is the numbers. You don't know what the target is, you don't see the photograph till you're done. And those are permanently assigned. You can't reuse those numbers for a different target. They've done that. They've tried it, and you'll end up in your drawing with two mixed targets together. They have to be from whatever set you're drawing them from. They have to be unique for that target. That's why there's 81 million possible number combinations, and when they run out of those, they'll have to come up with another pool for numbers. But that's how it works at the basic level. You go through those. The next stage would be to take from the top of X, something should be perceivable, and you do the whole process again. and get a drawing from the top of A, something should be perceivable, you do another session, and from the top of B, then you put all that together into the site template, and if you're good enough, you'll come up with the building, you'll come up with the mountains, you'd come up with the drawing. Yes?
Jerry, did you just say that when we get further into this, what we do again, we're supposed to use the same TNRs?
No. Those TRNs are assigned to that picture for all of eternity, theoretically.
So when we do this again, we use different TRNs?
Yes. If you wanted to do to develop your own targets, you can use a set of numbers to assign to a target, and the target changes over time, but the numbers don't. That's like a Q. My optimum health trajectory, I'd set a set of TRNs to that, and every time I run it, I might get a different answer. Or my current, the optimal current investment might change. Remember I said it was gold, and then it was silver, and then it was seeds, and it was long guns? Same TRNs. If I define that once, I don't need to redefine it or need new TRNs. I'll just get different answers as the effect changes, because it's current. Well, current depends on your point in time. Current today won't be the same as a year from now. Okay? But when you're doing it to a photograph, that's permanent. That stays with that photo forever. Eiffel Tower, whatever it is, it's got a set of TRNs assigned, and that'll be the target. Now, you might have two different viewers getting the Eiffel Tower from two different angles, but it's still the Eiffel Tower. It would match the photograph. And when you get good at it, you'd actually match the photograph pretty closely. But the key is the basics. If you learn the basics, you can do your own remote viewing. I would recommend the DVD course. The basic course is like $149. It's normally $300. You buy that, you go through. After that, you go into the forum. The forums are free. Even if you don't buy the course, the forums are free, and you can ask questions, and you can get into a forum on the kill shot, a forum on sports betting, whatever one of the ones you want to get into. Create an account for yourself and log in, and Ed appears in there, and the professionals that work with him appear in there to answer questions. So it's a good resource. Anyway, is that it? Okay. Next month we have a speaker lined up. I can give details on that soon. And then we have another one lined up for the month after that. So we're covered for 2 months, April and May. We'll probably have a speaker in June, and then we'll take July and August off. We'll see. We'll have. Who is it? Richard? No, that's not. Alex? Alex Molesky next month probably, and then Richard Mack is going to be here the month after.
Who is Alex?
He's been here before. Electoral College. So we get toward the election, we start getting some other types of speakers, and after the election we'll have the ones that tell us how the vote fraud took place, or something like that. Yeah. Still voting, as Ernie says, and yeah, does it do any good? Well, we don't really know, but whatever.
All right, thanks again, Jerry.
Yeah, you're welcome.